He is one of the most incredible musicians to come out of show business in Ireland.
Nothing in this great big world that he's thinking of. All he really cares for is the one he loves.
One of the greatest jazzers in the business. Would you welcome, please, Paddy Cole?
Heaven above, that is all he's thinking of. Now you've heard.
For 50 years, Paddy Cole has been one of Ireland's best-known entertainers. Even as a child, he captivated audiences with his talent, and through the 60s and 70s, he enjoyed unprecedented success, playing at one stage to over 30 million people and outselling major international stars in Vegas. But the world of showbiz could be fickle, and Paddy soon found out how unpredictable it could be.
It eventually happened that I got sacked out of the band.
Paddy's story is rooted in the County Monaghan town of Castleblaney, which is only a few miles from the border.
One of the things that was happening all the time was smuggling. And where we lived was right opposite the customs post. We'd hear the pigs squealing in the morning time, and we'd say, oh, another catch, a lorry load of pigs. Or if the white bread came in, then the women on the street could go over and buy the white bread. You see, the bread was very bad down south at the time, and the people used to smuggle the bread down from the top. My mother, Lord of Mercy, and myself, I remember a kid, we used to go up to Crossmaglen, and we'd take paraffin oil and white bread. And if the customs came along, you might have 6 loaves of white bread, you threw them over the hedge, and you waited until the customs patrol passed, then you were back and got them and went on down home.
Paddy grew up surrounded by music.
Most of my family, my uncles and my cousins all played music. My dad, was one of the first men to bring a saxophone to Castleblaney. My dad used to get the records sent over from America, then the big bands, the Count Basie, the Duke Ellingtons and that. We were listening to all that sort of music. I was always into traditional Dixieland jazz, which was New Orleans jazz. That's what caught my imagination. As soon as I heard that, I wanted to play that.
Although his father played in many of the local bands by night, he still held down a regular day job.
My dad drove the mail van for the post office, and it was great for me because in the summertime I would go with him. And it meant when he went to a certain point down on Mullen, we stayed there for 3 or 4 hours before he started to collect again. And there were the times that we fished for trout, or on wet days, we practiced the saxophone.
Oh, up the lazy river where the old mill run. Up the lazy river, the noonday sun.
But on the days when Paddy couldn't join his father in the van, he wasn't let off lightly.
He'd be going out in the mornings and he would give me a part on the tutor, the book, to have that off in the evening. When he came in the evening, then we would go through it together. And loads of days I would come home from school, and when all my pals, Ollie Mooney and all the boys would go out playing football, I would have to go in and practice the tutor, the saxophone. I hated it at the time, you know what I mean?
Paddy's father then joined the very popular Morris Lynch Band, and soon his young son was playing with him at the tender age of 12.
I suppose it was a novelty more than anything, and they used to bring me out to sing a song, you know what I mean? And Sippin' Soda Through a Straw was the name of the song. I'll never forget. Sippin' soda, sippin' soda. And there I was, this little guy singing, you know.
Sipping soda, sipping soda.
But performing in front of a live audience proved too much one time.
One of the first times I can remember with the Morris Lynch Band was doing a concert in Castleblaney, and I was going to play a saxophone solo, and they had it all billed. 12-year-old Paddy Cole, Ireland's youngest saxophone player, all this sort of thing, you know. And I stood up and I froze. I couldn't get a note. And my dad blew in straight away and he started off, and then I came in and played it. And I always remember that part of it, you know, being frightened.
Paddy recovered from his stage fright and spent the rest of his teens touring with the Morris Lynch Band. But for other young people, the social scene in Ireland had little to offer.
There wasn't an awful lot happening. Ireland was dreary, sort of dull, you know, trying to create sort of things to do. You went to a movie if you had the money to go to the movie, and you went to a dance. And suddenly the show band scene lifted all that. My God, people were dancing 7 nights a week.
Got you on my mind, feeling kind of sad.
One of the emerging show bands at the time was the Capitol, and they came knocking on Paddy's door.
They were hand-picking guys that would suit the different spots. You know, this was completely new because before that, a band from Athlone, we'll say, had all guys from Athlone. A band from Derry had all guys from Derry. And I was lucky enough to be picked as the sax and clarinet player in the band. But my mother wasn't that convinced that I'm an only son, you see, had 6 sisters. And my mother didn't want her only boy, poor Paddy, going to Dublin, staying in a flat on his own, you know, and nobody to look after him. So a couple of friends of hers told her to have a bit of sense that this was a great opening for me because it was great money, and there was no money around in those days.
I want to pass her twice just because she is so nice, Angelina.
I remember the first date we played up around home, up around Castleblaney, was in Blackrock, outside Dundalk. It was packed. The people were there from about 6:30, 7 o'clock trying to get into the ballroom. And of course it was all Paddy Cole, the local guy, you know what I mean?
Angelina, I adore you.
The first year was a huge success. The publicity had spread around, and the Royal Showband were big, very big at the time. So suddenly there was the Capitol Showband, another big band had arrived on the scene. Then we decided, the Royal Showband had done a single, Tom Dunphy, Come Down the Mountain, Katie Daly, and we decided to do an LP, as it was known at the time, which was a long-playing record. So we were the first band to do a long-playing record.
However, life on the road for the show bands was different to the comfort of the recording studios.
We always saw the ballrooms at the worst because we would arrive in the afternoon. You went into a ballroom that was cold, empty, didn't look very glamorous, huge, because they wanted them big to take the crowds that were going in those days. We would rehearse for the day, the afternoon we'd say, then go and get something to eat. And when we would arrive back to the ballroom, the place would be transformed, it would be packed.
Maybe they conducted, but sometimes I've got a fight. Where all those fine musicians that you read about today, where the drums go bang.
You looked down, there was just a haze of smoke, dust, if you like, from dancing. And when we struck up the first note, the place would just go mad. Cars would be from miles away down the road from the ballroom. And when you think of the industry that was at the time, like if there was a dance, we'll say, in Castleblaney, the people that benefited from that, like the hairdressers, the ladies' boutiques, the bars, the filling stations, the taxi service, the people that supplied the ballroom with minerals and sandwiches. The industry that was there was unbelievable when you think of it now, you know.
Born to be with you.
The Capitol Showband was by now one of the most popular bands in the country. And their popularity wasn't just within Ireland.
We also did extensive tours of America, and they were wonderful. We used to go to New York, Chicago, Boston, any place like where there was an Irish population, we hit. I remember one time when we went to play in New York in the city centre, and there must have been about 4,500 people at the dance.
The Capitol's continuing appeal was boosted even further when in 1965 the band were invited to appear on Sunday night at the London Palladium.
The London Palladium was huge. We were the first Irish band to do that, and there was something like 30 million people all over Europe watched it at the time. We were actually offered 6 months residency in the Palladium, 6 nights a week. And for family reasons, and we were doing so well at home, that the money we were offering the Palladium wouldn't even nearly match the money we were making at home. So we turned it down.
Such was their success that later that same year, the Capitol's leading man, Butch Moore, was chosen as Ireland's first representative at the Eurovision Song Contest.
My poor heart feels like breaking, 'cause I'll never see you again.
Butch and the Capitol had enjoyed 7 years at the top, but on the back of his Eurovision performance, the leading man was made an offer he couldn't refuse.
'Cause I'm walking the streets in the rain.
Butch got an offer to go into cabaret, to do the talk of the town in London and all these sort of places and all that. And he came along and told us that he had been offered this, and it was all very friendly situation. There was no animosity or anything. We all wished him well. The band was still good, but Butch was gone.
'Cause I'm walking the streets in the rain.
For the next few years, the Capitol continued playing throughout Ireland. But by now, the golden era was over.
We walked down the street for so long.
The show bands had started to go down, and the country and western bands were coming up.
And for Paddy, now married with a young family, life on the road was beginning to wear him out.
It was at the stage, I remember one Christmas morning, and the kids were playing with their toys about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was getting into a wagon to drive to Carndunna in Donegal, up through sleet and snow and everything. And when we arrived up, we got it very hard to get something to eat. The hotel was closed and all that, and I just said, what am I at here?
Then, out of the blue, Paddy was offered the opportunity of a lifetime to team up with former Royal Showband members and Twink to form a new band.
So suddenly I'm offered a gig in the Big 8 with 6 or 7 months in Las Vegas in the sunshine. So it wasn't a hard decision to make.
Before long, Paddy was on a plane with his wife Helen and their young family to their new life in America.
My memory of Vegas was flying in over it. It was unbelievable to look down and see the Strip at that time. You saw this mass of lights from top to bottom. We didn't realise the reception we were going to get. Every night we did the gig, the crowds were there, packed out along the Strip. The other acts would have been like the likes of Fats Domino and people like that. We were doing bigger crowds than these other people. Like, it's amazing, because we were doing a complete varied programme. Like in the middle of our show, we did a 15-minute Irish slot where we had Irish dancers and all that sort of thing.
Well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head. That didn't hurt.
Despite the Irish theme of the show, Las Vegas was a world away from the small town of Castleblaney, where Paddy was brought up.
Everything was open 24 hours, which was completely new to us in the early 70s, as you can imagine. I mean, like bars, shops, supermarkets, everything was open 24 hours. So we were going to the bar, maybe having finished our last show, 2:30, 3 o'clock. No windows in the bar, no clocks. It could be 3 o'clock on the day or 3 o'clock in the morning. The bar looked the same, all very well thought out. So you come out to go home and the sun would hit you between the eyes. You'd look at your watch and it might be 5:30 or 6 o'clock. In that respect, the danger was there all the time. You know, the danger was there for anybody that might want to gamble a bit, because everything was set up to gamble. Even when you finished doing your shopping in the supermarket, there was always a slot machine there to take your loose change.
But the gamble Paddy made to move his life to Vegas was starting to lose its sheen.
We did 3 shows a night, 6 nights a week, which was tough going. The hardest part was to get yourself back up for the next show and then to get yourself back up for the last show. That was the hardest part.
Don't make you wanna go home now. Don't make you wanna go home. children get weary when they're home, and don't make you wanna go home.
It wasn't easy on the wives of the band members. They were keeping a family going. Helen was a rock of sense, and she kept our family going, in fairness. We tried to have some sort of normality in our lives, you know, because Vegas could really do you in if you let it, you know. So we lived away from the strip and tried to live a normal sort of existence. Helen never really settled in Vegas. She missed the seasons. She missed daffodils. She missed the Four Seasons, which we never saw there.
Don't make you wanna go home now. Don't make you wanna go home.
Then, one day, the safety of his young children became a real concern for Paddy.
The drug pushers started handing out sweets at the school gate, and there would be drugs in the sweet. They give them for nothing, then they'd charge them 50 cents, then they'd charge them $1. And it was really for their sake we decided to get them out of that environment. And if we don't make the break now, we'll never make the break. So do we want to live there? And we didn't really want to live there.
So, for the sake of his family, Paddy made the break and came home. However, returning to Ireland would involve sacrifices.
I had no job, no gig. And then into my life came a great guy, Tony Lockman.
The promoter suggested to Paddy that he form his own band, and the Paddy Cole Superstars were born, which included a few familiar faces.
And Twink had left the Big Eight before that, so Twink joined the band, and a few of the guys left the Big Eight when I was leaving. So we finished up with 5 of us from the Big Eight and concentrated mostly on the north of Ireland, and the band became a huge success up there.
But Ireland had changed. Then, in 1975, the Northern Troubles crossed over into the entertainment world.
The 6 Miami bandsmen left the Castle Ballroom in Banbridge just before 2 this morning. 1 travelled north to visit friends in County Antrim. The remaining 5 drove south to Dublin and straight into a carefully prepared ambush.
What happened next left 3 members of the Miami Showband dead.
The Miami thing was dreadful. That was an awful week in show business. That effectively wiped out our whole gigs in the north. And I remember us trying to scramble gigs in the south and bad crowds, and we nearly folded at that stage. And then Tony Lockman met me one day and he said, we have to make a decision here. Are we going to go back up the north or fold the band?
Regardless of the danger, the decision was made to go back over the border.
We were welcomed with open arms, of course, being the first band to go back up again, and the ballrooms were packed. And we never experienced any difference from the people in the north. We played at dances where there would be all Protestant and Catholic going to the dances, and there was never anything happened.
However, the leader of the Paddy Cole Superstars was then dealt a surprising blow.
It eventually happened that I got sacked out of the band. The guys were going for a more pop audience, and I was considered maybe to be a bit over the top at that stage. So I was approached to see would I do PR for the band, and I said, if you think I'm going to sit in an office sending out posters or something like that, forget about it. Like, it reminded me of the movie The Godfather. It was purely business.
Paddy decided to get out of show business entirely and devoted his time to running his bar in Castleblaney.
We ran the bar in Castleblaney for 10 or 11 years, but I never ever thought that I was going to always be in that bar, you know what I mean? Like, it was tough going.
But music was in his blood, and it wasn't long before he found himself doing what he loved best.
I started running a Monday night jazz session in the bar. The jazz session there was great. Different guys dropped in. Maurice Lynch used to come back to it and play with me and that.
Paddy had once more been bitten by the bug, and soon his career was no longer pulling pints, but playing gigs again. Then, a meeting with some old friends in 1984 sparked off something special.
We had to get together with the Capitol guys, and we decided that we would maybe have a reunion. When we went out on stage, we could have played Ba Ba Black Sheep. The people stood up and it was unbelievable. Before we struck a note, the people were on their feet. It was a huge success, and it was great to see all the people back again, to see the band. It was great to play with all the guys. It was a wonderful time.
The Capitol reunion was only for a short time, but life for Paddy since then has been continuously in the limelight.
So we're apart. Yes, you're part of me still. Want to see we get a reaction now. And you were my thrill on Blueberry Hill.
Paddy's first priority in life is still his family.
Helen and myself are still great buddies, as well as husband and wife. She keeps an eye on me. She's still my soulmate. Now with my grandchildren, I'm enjoying what I should have been enjoying with my children. But thanks be to God, through all that, I have a great relationship with my whole family, with Pierce and Pat and Karen. We love each other big time. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks once again for joining us here on the Paddy Cole Show, 10 o'clock every Sunday morning.
And his love of music isn't just confined to the stage, as he now also presents his own radio show.
I just love it. And now people meet me and they say, instead of saying, oh, I heard you play in such a place, they say, oh, I listen to your show every Sunday morning, which is great. Like, you know, I get a great kick out of that, you know. This morning we're starting off with a song written by Mr. Waylon Jennings, recorded many years ago by the Paddy Cole Superstars. It's one called The Waymore Blues.
If you wanna go to heaven, got a D.I.E. You gotta put on your coat and T.I. If you wanna get the rubber dot the L.O.G. you gotta...
I think the showband era, to me, it changed the lives of a lot of people in Ireland, of the whole scene in Ireland. It revolutionised whole social scene in Ireland. And there's not a place I go, or any of my colleagues, but somebody will say, I used to dance to you in such a place, or I used to dance in such a place. And that's your answer.